Hello, everybody. Welcome to Friday Reflections. Today is Good Friday. Today is a day that's often overlooked in the Christian year. If you ask what are the biggest holidays in the Christian tradition, in the Christian year, people will go between Christmas and Easter. And culturally, they have become big selling points. But I think actually Good Friday is the central day of the Christian year, the day Christ died. A lot of times we pass over Good Friday to get to the resurrection. Jesus' death is kind of a bump in the road to get to the good stuff, the resurrection. But the New Testament writers never focus on the resurrection. When they talk about the way of Christ, when they talk about what God did for us, when they talk about new life, the cross of Jesus is always at the center. We cannot have resurrection without the cross. The cross, I think, should be the center holiday of the Christian year, Good Friday. And so today I want to share just a couple reflections on the cross of Jesus and its importance for us and its significance for us. There's a great quote here that says this: "The cross of Jesus is the key. If I lose this key, I fumble. The universe will not open to me. But with the key in my hand, I know I hold its secret." That's what Paul the Apostle talks about, the secret of the cross, the word of the cross, the message of the cross is God's wisdom. Paul doesn't say the resurrection of Jesus is God's wisdom. He says the message of the cross is God's wisdom, where God is revealed most. Another quote is this: "The wounds of Christ on the cross were the greatest outlets of his glory that ever were. The divine glory shone more out of his wounds than all of his life before, more than his miracles, more than anything else. It's the cross that shows the glory of Jesus." There's a short little reflection I want to read here by an author named H.H. Farmer, and he says this: "If we look at the gospel story of the passion of Jesus as a whole and do not isolate the cross from its context, one of the most impressive and revealing things is this: the strong deliberation and mastery which characterizes Jesus throughout his last days. He is so manifestly not in the least a straw in the stream of events. His enemies are not manipulating him so much as he is controlling them, not in a wrong way, but in the way which God takes our silly insecurities, God takes our misunderstandings and turns them around to show his infinite love. We think we have control, but in the cross of Christ, we lose control only to find God's control. To the end that he could have escaped the cross by the simple, expedient path of going somewhere else, of dodging his future, Jesus did not do so. He deliberately directs his steps to the cross. There is an atmosphere of mastery about him as he sets his face to the cross. Standing before council, before Pilate, there's no suggestion of fumbling or hesitancy. Nor, on the other hand, is there a suggestion of excitement. It is the other people who are excited, not Jesus. It is always the excited people who are the weak and foolish ones. Jesus is quiet and calm, and he says calmly, "No one takes my life from me. I give it up by myself." He says very plainly, with direct steadiness, with conviction, "After this, you will see the Son of Man raised up and seated at the right hand of power." And Jesus is not talking about his resurrection there. He's talking about being on the cross. He says, "You will see me raised up at the hand of power." When he is raised on the cross in an act of divine love, that is when he is at the most powerful, when the world is putting him to death. The cross is Jesus's enthronement as king for us, for our salvation. Not a day to be mournful and sad, but a day actually to celebrate. It is the cross where Jesus is glorified. Let me close with this prayer. I stand before the cross and wonder. I stand before the cross and fear. I kneel before the cross and weep. I pray before the cross and rejoice, because it is here that Christ is King. To know the cross is to know Christ. To feel the cross is to feel Christ. To look upon the cross is to look upon Christ. To carry the cross is to be a Christian, and not until then. May God's mercy be with you today as you remember the cross of Christ and his enthronement as King in our lives. We'll see you this Friday, tonight, or Sunday morning.